All right, today we're going to get into a pretty interesting YouTube video. The title sounds great, right? The 10 Best Countries for Women's Freedom. You click on it thinking you're going to get a celebration of progress. But that's not what this is. The source actually uses this familiar, friendly top 10 list format to deliver a message that's, well, the complete opposite. It's a classic bait and switch. And this slide just lays that contradiction out perfectly. On one side, you've got the title, the promise of a positive list. But on the other, you have what the source is really saying, that this freedom leads to a dramatic and scandalous turn. So right from the jump, we know this isn't just about facts and figures. This is a cautionary tale.
So how does the video build this argument? Well, it all boils down to something it calls the dual standard of freedom. Basically, the video splits women's empowerment into two totally separate boxes. In one box, you have professional success and economic independence, and in the other, you have what it calls social license, the freedom to live your life without traditional social rules.
Now, the source is actually pretty careful to acknowledge the good stuff. It points to countries like Sweden, Norway, and Canada and says, hey, women there have incredible rights when it comes to education and jobs. It calls this the shining exterior. But, and this is key, it always frames these positives as just the setup for what it calls the dark story behind the curtain.
And this brings us right to the core of the argument: success versus social freedom. See, the video doesn't just say these two things exist side by side. No, it argues that there's a direct line connecting them, a cause and effect. The whole claim is that professional success and being financially independent directly cause what it calls limitless social behavior.
Let's look at the main example the video uses: Sweden. To build its case, it pulls out this statistic, that women hold 57% of business leadership positions there. This is what it presents as the success part of the equation. A big achievement, right?
And right here, this is the critical pivot in the whole narrative. The source takes that statistic about women in leadership and argues that it is the direct cause of something completely different, something it sees as a deeply negative social outcome.
And here's that outcome. The video claims that about 80% of young women in Sweden are either in open relationships or enjoy an unrestricted nightlife. So in the logic of the source, that 57% leadership figure isn't just a separate fact, it's presented as the actual root cause of this 80% figure.
Now, as the video goes through its list of 10 countries, it uses the word scandal over and over again. But what does it actually mean by that? We're not talking about political scandals or anything like that. No, the source has a very, very specific set of social behaviors in mind.
The scandal it's talking about is always a mix of these things: going out to clubs and bars, having open or premarital relationships, clothing choices that it labels shamelessness, sharing your personal life online, and even women just taking charge in their own relationships. This is the exact same checklist of critiques it uses for every single country it mentioned.
But here's the real kicker for the source. The main problem isn't just that these things are happening. The real critique is that they've become normal. They are both legally allowed and, more importantly, socially accepted. And the video argues that this normalization just completely blurs what it considers the traditional lines of decency. And all of this, according to the video, leads to one final and, in its view, most devastating result: the damage done to the family system itself.
This quote from the video really gets to the core of its fear. The argument it's making is pretty clear. When personal choice is the most important thing, then traditional ideas like loyalty get tossed aside. And that, it says, leads directly to the breakdown of families.
The video then lays out what it claims are the results of this breakdown. It says the whole family system is being uprooted, that women are choosing not to have kids, affairs are common, and it even claims some women are leaving their husbands and children for boyfriends. This is presented as the final stop on the train, the logical end of all the freedoms we talked about earlier.
So you might be asking, okay, why does an analysis of countries in Europe and North America matter so much to the source's audience? Well, it's because the whole thing is framed as a global warning. It presents these social trends not as something happening over there, but as a contagious disease that's spreading everywhere.
And to make that warning feel really urgent and really local, the source connects everything it's been talking about directly to a well-known feminist slogan in Pakistan, Mera Jism Meri Marzi, which means my body, my choice.
The source literally says that this disease from the West has now shown up in Pakistan under this exact slogan. So what it's doing here is reframing a local rights movement as a symptom of a dangerous idea from the outside. And that, really, is the video's ultimate warning.
So after breaking this whole argument down, we're left with the huge question that's sitting at the center of it all. In any society, who gets to decide where freedom ends and excess begins? And how do those decisions shape what a culture becomes? It's a complicated debate for sure, and it's the fundamental tension at the very core of this source's critique. Definitely something to think about.